Greetings from the state of Kentucky. And I'm going to tell you something. It's chilly out here. When I left, it was like 92 degrees with about 75% humidity. And it was cooking. And when you live in a homestead lifestyle, you would know what I'm talking about. Because you don't have certain things that we've grown to enjoy, called air conditioning and all those kind of things. And so the night that heat came in, I definitely had a very restless night because it had been mild like this up until the other evening. So yeah, it's I didn't know I was going to have to take this, but something kept telling me, you better take a jacket. All right, so let me give you a little bit about my background before we get into the working mechanics of homesteading. I'm 70 years old, and that takes me back a few years. I was in my teens when I grew up in the state of California. And while I was a teenager going through my good old rebellious years, I met some hippies. Anybody knows what a hippie is? A few of us. And I was influenced by some of these folks. They had a cafe in the city I grew up in. And they had a farm outside of town where they grew a lot of their veggies and produce and used it in their cafe. And I was a city boy. I didn't know anything about country living or anything like that. It was just all city life. And I remember one time being there at the cafe, and these long-haired hippies and everything that went with that were sitting around the table chatting about a time of trouble. Yeah, they weren't good and straight like y'all. And I'd grown up in a home where there was somewhat some talk about that, but it was very foreign to my mind because I had no interest in a time that was coming where you weren't going to be able to buy or sell. Y'all believe that? We're going to look at some things, and I haven't always been a believer. I haven't always been a born-again Christian. I was very much in the opposite. And so our journey together is going to be my journey that I'm going to be sharing with you folks. And the journey that I've been on that has taught me and my family a lot of things about preparing for what's coming. And so we were talking about this time of trouble. Believe it or not, I mean, these folks were just back-to-lander hippies that were smoking their pot and doing all those things that they were all doing. And I was really surprised to hear them talk about this time is coming. That was a driving motive for some of these folks back then to get out in the country, to have land, to be able to learn how to be self-sufficient, how to have an environment to where when the cities collapse and the world economy and the governments collapse, that they had a place to where they could grow food. Yeah. I don't know where y'all are at. You don't know me, and I don't know you, but I hope by the end of the week we do know one another. Because that drove a nail into me. That I can't get away from. And I didn't know anything about the Bible. I didn't know anything. I went down that hippie trail. I ended up in Central America homesteading out in the middle of a jungle. And it was while I was there, searching and seeking for something better than what I had in a city life, that I was turned on to Jesus. And so, part of this journey that I'm going to be discussing with you folks is this whole thing in the morning topics is about this idea of homesteading. You know, Andrew and his wife, we were chatting about that. And I had mentioned to them that, you know, we've all grown up in a system of society, and nearly the whole world has been caught up into it, to where we're so detached from a way of life that we've become so dependent upon a system that if it ever crashes, where do you think people are going to end up?
Dire straits.
Well, I'm going to tell you, that's why we're here together, because we do not want to be caught unaware. We do not want to be caught. And I don't know where you're all coming from, where your journey has been, but these morning sessions, we're going to try to work through some various principles on homesteading. So when I was in Central America, we lived back 15 to 20 miles back out in the middle of nowhere. And there was no Walmarts. There was no Kroger's. There was no Safeways. There was none of that. And like I said, I grew up in a city in California, and that's all we knew is when you wanted something, you went to the store to get it, right? Well, when I ended up in Central America, it was like I went back 200 years in life. What you ate, you grew. Do you understand what I'm saying? The homes that you lived in, you built out of the woods. What fertilizer you had was from your livestock. Everything, it was a whole new thought. I mean, I was being educated at a very young age, and I had no idea why, and I still am not real sure why, but anyhow, I was beginning to learn a different life altogether than what I was used to as a child or young man growing up. And so through these years, it's been, I guess, something that stayed with me so strongly of understanding how to have a life that's more self-sustaining. Ask yourself the question, what would happen if tonight the system collapsed? Be honest with yourself. And you kids are young enough that you need to be thinking about this, because you're growing up and you're going to be our generation if the Lord doesn't return soon. Now, I want to tell you something. I'm not into paranoia and I'm not into schizophrenia. But I'm going to tell you, things are happening in this world rapidly. I've been watching this for a long time. And I tell you, and I was not a student of the Bible. I have become, over the years, more and more acquainted with this book. And there are things inside that book that if you aren't acquainted with it, I beg of you to get in there, because God in His mercy has given us a roadmap through the mess that we're facing. Now, in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, we're not going to have a Bible study here, but I got to bring it up. because it has everything to do with what we're going to be discussing through the next number of meetings. In the book of Revelation, chapter 13, it talks about a beast. It's called a dragon. And I'm not going to get into all the details about that here, but that dragon gave his power, seat, and authority unto the next beast. And that beast had built a system in Europe to where all of Europe came under its authority. I hope we've got some Bible students in here. And that beast had control of every country of Europe. And its influence became a deep influence until they were forced to honor and worship that system. Now, in that very same chapter, it talks about how that beast that had done all these things, that there came up another beast. And that other beast began to copy the beast before it. It's called making an image to the beast. Is that right? Now, when you make an image to something, what does that mean?
An idol.
The only reason why I'm sharing this with you folks is because I didn't understand this back in those early years when those hippies were talking about there's going to come a time where you can't buy or sell. Well, that's apparently where they got it from. I don't know what their background totally was, but I do know one thing. They understood that there's coming a time that you won't be able to do what you want to do with freedom at all. What does that mean to you? Please don't let me sit up here and be the only one talking.
It means that we're not going to be able to go to the store and purchase anything or talk to our neighbors and say what's on our minds, because everybody's going to be telling on each other. I came from a country, even though I was a kid, that happened to. And believe you me, it's happening right now.
It's very real.
It's very real.
The only reason why I'm bringing this up is I want to stress the importance of why we're talking about these things. Because I'm going to tell you something, folks. The clock is running out. We don't have a whole lot of time left, I don't believe. I'm not a prophet or a son of a prophet, but I can tell you that book is very real. There's things inside of there that we have yet to get our heads wrapped around, much less our bodies. A lot of us have head knowledge, but we don't have action. We don't have a body experience in putting it to place, is what I'm trying to say here. That image that was made in Europe had control of everything you did. Y'all know that, right? If you don't, go read your history. Apparently, this sister right here has been through that kind of experience as a child. And I'm going to tell you something. If the United States, according to the book of Revelation chapter 13, makes an image to the beast, it's going to follow the same tracks of that beast. You believe that? Now, a number of us have been discussing this for a good while. And before we get into these things, I have to go down this road so that you can appreciate or understand why we're even talking about this stuff, folks. I'm just not into, going and hunkering in and trying to save my own hide. I really never thought I'd be out here talking to folks like you, trying to help them and understand what it means to live on the land or homesteading. In fact, I don't even think we even understand what the word really means. But when we see the United States make an image to the beast, I want to ask anyone in this room, do y'all have any idea if that has already happened or is it yet to happen? let me tell you something, folks. This country was based on totally different principles than what Europe had gone through when that dragon, that beast power in Europe did what it did. You all know about the Constitution of the United States, and I'm not going to get into a lesson on that. But when the United States makes an image to that system in Rome, that is the Roman Catholic system, that was set up to control everything you did, from buying and selling, how you worship, where you worship, everything you do. And the United States wants to do that in 1892. How many years ago was 1892? A long time ago. The United States had already had made an image to the beast. In Europe, there was what was known as the combination of church and state. The church had control of the state, and the state made laws to control the people. Is that right? When the United States in 1892, through Congress, was passing laws to control your rights, that the state was under control of church dogma, the image was made all the way back there. Now, if you read chapter 13, in the very verses that it talks about this image to the beast, it says that that beast will be given life. That image to the beast will be given life. And I'm going to tell you something. That beast has been made, that image to the beast was made many years ago, but it's laid dormant because it hasn't been given life. I'm going to just tell you something, folks. The beast is waking up. The beast is waking up. And I'm going to tell you, we could spend the rest of this weekend or week just on that subject alone. The reason why I'm bringing this up is for the why are y'all interested in homesteading? Now, I heard the brother say it. You know why? Because if you continue in that chapter 13, it tells you that there's going to be a time where you won't be able to buy or sell. The very thing that happened in Europe to those 10 toes, those 10 European nations that came under control of the Roman governmental system, church and state, could not buy or sell unless they were controlled by the European mindset of the Roman Catholic Church. If the United States has made an image to the beast and that beast becomes alive, then that tells you what's coming next. Come on. What does that mean, trouble?
Control of the market.
This is a classroom. This is not me preaching to you, okay?
Well, essentially, it'll make those who don't kowtow cease to exist. On paper or individually.
That means your constitutional freedom has gone down the tubes. Most of us don't even realize, brethren, that your constitutional rights been gone since 1892. It's been that's exactly right, brother. That's a long time. And it's by the grace of God that the image of the beast has not come alive. And to come alive means it will consume everything in its way. Why do we want to even discuss homesteading? I just had to go down this road, folks, and I'm trying to leave a lot of stuff out. But I want you to realize this is not a game for me. And it better not be a game for you, or else you're going to be with those wicked on the other side of the ark. You'll be banging on the door when it's too late.
prepared to help others and to bring them to Christ.
Very good. You remember, this was not planned. It's the honest truth, and I'm just telling you straight up. I said, Lord, what am I going to talk to these people about to get the seriousness into their heads and into their hearts of realizing what is happening? The image of the beast is coming alive, brethren. Things are happening as we are sitting here right now in this world that we live in. You talk about wars and rumors of wars? Brethren, let me tell you something. This world is about ready to crack in two. Things are happening so fast, it's almost hard to keep up with them. This whole idea of homesteading is not for the saving of your own soul. It's for the purpose, because there's going to be people that have not the knowledge, have not had the time, have not had the experience to help them to find a place of safety during this storm when it hits. I cannot stress that hard enough for you folks. One of the things I learned through the hippies, I was a hippie myself, is they understood the concept of community. They understood what it meant to be there for one another. I'm going to tell you something. There's something wrong with us. Big time wrong with us. If you're a believer in Christ and you don't look out for one another, you got a problem. You're not a Christian. Sorry. You might be religious, but the whole purpose of doing what we do is for the purpose of helping our brother. Now, I could tell you, and I could preach on that subject for the rest of the time, but our purpose is for one another. Whether we know it or not, we're all descendants out of Noah's ark. We're all family. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what race you are of. We are all family. And I'm telling you, if there was ever a time in Earth's history that we needed one another, it is now. It is now. Now, the purpose of our discussion of homesteading is for that purpose predominantly. Then now we need to discuss how to do that, right? But our purpose is to build a place of safety for our families and for our direct family as well as our intermediate family and those in whom they don't even recognize we're family. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, honestly, can you imagine? Get your head? No, you can't, because you've never been there most likely. You know, unless you're up above 80 years old. I don't know if there's anybody in here that's 80 years old yet. Maybe there is. Maybe there's not. But yeah, I hear you, brother. I'm pushing those gates. But I'm going to tell you something. Most of us cannot get our heads wrapped around living without being able to buy or sell. I mean, we just can't seem to get it through our heads. You know, my wife and I, we have struggled with this for many, many years. And as we move through these lectures, I guess you want to call them, I'll be sharing different points of our journey with you about this thing called homesteading. It has been a real experience. And like I said earlier, I never thought I'd be out here trying to teach people this stuff, but here I am. I'm going to tell you something, people. I don't, again, know where you're all coming from. But I can tell you one thing is for sure. God is doing something with or without us. I meet people of all levels of life, and they're all saying the same thing. Something's coming down. Something is happening. And they're trying to get a handle on what is going on and what can we expect? What should we be doing? And of course, there's all kinds of stuff in between that's been added to the story that we probably do some overcharge. But the same language across the board is everyone is getting the sense that something is about ready to crack loose. Is that right? Now, y'all pray for me that I'll be able to give you the knowledge that the Lord gave me so that it'll be a tool for you to help you on your journey. Because this is no easy task, I'm telling you. It's hard for me to take 48 years of my life, almost 50 years of my life, and concentrate it down in 5 hours. Do you follow what I'm saying? So you pray that the Lord will do something with my mouth to your ears. So, as I started to say, and I said it earlier, how would we think? Ask yourself those questions. I asked myself this many years ago because of what we was involved in talking about this time of trouble and not being able to buy or sell. Do you think that's going to be an easy thing? I mean, think about it. Honestly, think about it, and don't try to run from your thinking processes. Don't try to lie to yourself and say, oh, it's going to be a breeze. Oh, Walmart will always be there, you know. Or Amazon, yeah, thank you. Well, I'm going to tell you something. If you can't buy and sell, you're not going to have this. You're not going to have these computerized systems. Those computerized systems all have spyware in it. You all know that, right? Do you know what that means? Ah, hello. That means they took your constitutional rights away from you long ago. When the image of the beast was made, they began to softly and gently usurp your freedom of constitutional rights. As a citizen of this country, they have worked very slowly to be able to know everything you do. Do you know what that means? When we talk about homesteading, what does that mean? Come on, folks. Hello. I want to hear y'all say it.
They know what you buy already, and they know you're getting ready.
Let me tell you something. I told my wife, our next move, all this stuff is going into the pond. You ready for that? Yeah, it is a tough one. So you probably don't want me out here lecturing to you all about homesteading. I may not have long hair anymore, and I may not look like a hippie anymore, but I'm still a hippie. And I'm going to tell you something. We need to have a conversion of this thing right up here. We need to start thinking differently, because I'm going to tell you something. We are not going to be able to go from this to that like that. It's like jerking somebody off of drugs that have been hooked on cocaine or heroin, and just jerk them right off there, you know what they're going to go through? Oh, hello. Big time. And we're so contaminated with technology in every direction. I mean, I can remember my brother that came from California to visit us back on one of our homesteads. And he was sitting there and he says, it's too quiet. I said, what do you mean it's too quiet? He says, Ron, you don't have anything going on.
That's the point.
No radio, no TV, no computer, no this, no that. And I said, oh, hallelujah. And it like it drove him absolutely nuts until he had to go back to California. So, yeah. This detachment and this separation has got to happen in our heads. And then our bodies have got to follow through with it. All right? So, I believe we've been given a short window of space to do what we can do while we can do it. I was talking to Andrew and Becky. Was it this morning or was it last night? And this is one of the things that I cannot stress hard enough for all of you. I'm a long ways away. And I'm going to have a hard time when some of you start showing up on my farm. And you have not prepared for this time. Because you might find a shotgun sitting right there between your eyeballs, back down the road you're going. You're not coming to this farm unless you made effort to prepare. I'm not going to babysit you. We will not have time to babysit people. Do you follow what I'm saying? Your responsibility is to learn all that you can learn now and put it into practice. Does that sound harsh? Oh, brother, let me tell you what, and a lot of us are so sissified. Excuse me, that was no pun towards the women. Anyways, my wife, I hear her in my head. Ron, behave yourself. We are not prepared physically for what's coming, much less spiritually or intellectually. And we're going to look at this. When we get up here on this board and we start unraveling this stuff, we're going to start unraveling various areas as best as we can. And when we talk about your homestead, I don't think too many of us have much understanding of what that even means. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you a little story, and I don't know when I'm supposed to hush my trap, but I've got a few minutes left, I think. Is it supposed to be an hour?
Yeah, half past. So,
okay.
you got 15 minutes.
Okay, we'll do an hour session, right? I'm just getting started by then. So anyhow, I'm going to tell you a little story that's a true story to emphasize this thing about homesteading, and then we're going to start unraveling piece by piece that whole idea. A number of years ago, in New Hampshire, that's in the New England states, back when it was where America was being settled up there, the University of New Hampshire had done a research for the next 5 years on homesteading. It was being offered as a piece of a degree. And so there were various students and teachers that signed up for the course. Well, they had all read books, and they had all read this, and they had all been taught this, and they had all been hearing this, and they had all been all whatever. And so they all came together, and there was 2 of these teachers that actually started this project that had found an old New England homestead that was there in the late 1700s. Yeah. I don't know if you know much about New England or not, but I went to Maine, and I was going to buy a land up there to start a homestead up in Maine, Upper Maine. We were a young family, and we're full of a lot of fire and vinegar and zeal. And I got up there, and I got to looking around at the land, and I was just totally blown away. This piece of land that we had walked on had come through the late 1800s all the way up until about 2000. And the man was a 4th generation that grew up on that farm. His dad did, and his grandpa did, and great-grandpa did. All right, and that goes back 3-4 generations. This farm was laid out. I just get chills talking about it because it's just like, wow. It's amazing. I just see things that y'all can't see until I'm trying to paint this picture in your head. I walked onto this farm, and I knew exactly what I'd seen because that's where my soul spirit was at, what was happening, like I had moved back 200 or more years. There was 5-acre plots. This farm was laid out in 5-acre sections. You follow what I'm saying? These 5-acre sections were terraced in 5-acre terraces. 5-acre terraces. Do you have any idea? This piece of property is a 5-acre piece of land. You get your head wrapped around this situation, and this was the agricultural piece of the land, all right? They had a honey grove, or what we called a maple syrup, a sugar grove. I mean, it was a really neat laid out homestead, old farm, because a homestead was not a homestead, it was life. It was the way they lived. They didn't know what the word homestead meant. It's just become a fanatic word now. People are all caught up homesteading. These people were living what we're trying to get to. 5-acre terraces, and there was 6 of them on this one side of the farm that went from up here to down here. Now, do you know what a terrace means? It means you have to have a wall, and you fill it in with the soil, and you're farming along this wall to the next wall. Get your head wrapped around this picture. Yes, sir. These walls were built out of rocks. Dry stack rocks as big as an automobile. You hear what I'm saying? There was no bulldozers. There was no backhoes, cranes. There was human and animal power. I sat there just overwhelmed. I got tears in my face as I sat there and felt the spirit of this place. And I went like, wow. I said, oh Lord, help me to understand what homesteading's all about. Because I felt something from that place that I don't know how to express to you. You ready for that? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now, this university was wanting to understand that whole spiritual experience, if you please. Not very spiritual. It's very, very real. It's very physical. Well, when they started out on this project, they were, their desire was to restore this old homestead that these two professors had found in where they were at. And they had no clue of what they were attempting and what they wanted to do. They had to rebuild walls. Their fences were all built out of rocks up there. These fences were all broken down. The buildings, the barn alone was built out of massive rocks that had all fallen down. All the wood structure had all rotted away and had just gone to nothing. So they had to engineer. They had somebody on the team that was like an engineer team. And so they re-engineered everything like it would have been 200 years ago. Beams. Everything about that homestead had to be built as if it wasn't built. You follow what I'm saying? So, when they got to that point, they knew that they were going to have to get the timber out of the woods and create and hewn the logs like they did 200 years ago. 6 months into the project, the whole team was about ready to die. Hello? Y'all ready to come over to my farm? And they were absolutely near to die. And they didn't know what the problem was. Now, I can tell you by experience, when we watched this documentary, it spoke all over the top of me. Because I knew exactly what they were saying, because I had gone through just exactly what they're going through. Within 6 months, they were fixing to want to kill one another. They were torched. That's a nice way of saying something else. They were not happy campers, to say the least. There was arguing, there was fighting, there was bickering. It was about ready to fall. The project was about ready to fall apart. Now, I'm telling you this story for a reason, folks. Well, when they got to studying the situation, they found out their normal 12 to 2,000 calorie diet was not cutting it. Anybody heard the Little House on the Prairie series? Anybody read it? We used to read that series to our children every winter. And I said, those guys are the biggest bunch of liars that I've ever read. She is making up a big story to sell. When we first started reading, I said, "This, Farmer Boy? Remember where Farmer Boy grew up? That's right, up in New York. And the way he grew up was on a home, what we call a homestead, up there in New York. All right? Do you remember anything about when she started unraveling about their diet when they sat down to eat in the book? Do you remember? Come on. Y'all forget? Farmer Boy.
They had a lot of money, though, for back then.
But they did. That's right. But I'm not even looking at the money issue yet. We're going to get there. What I'm looking at is, I said, she is stretching the information. There is no way on this planet that they would consume that kind of food that often, 3 times a day, and plus between meals. Hello. You try to take your automobile out here and drive with no fuel in it and see how far your automobile will last. Comes to find out, she wasn't too far-fetched. This research team found that their 2,000, 2,500 calories, which seems to be a lot of calories, if we were consuming that now on a consistent basis, anyways. Yes, Chris, I'll behave myself. They found when they stepped their calorie load up to 5,000 calories, they started working like a machine. Yeah. That's right. All those things disappeared because their blood sugar, their muscle tone, everything began to change because they were burning up their body.
So you need a bigger
Okay, hey, we're getting there, brother. I'm just painting a picture for your heads. Because when we talk about homesteading, we've got to have a vision up here in this head, and we got to think no Walmart, no buying, no selling. You know, you got to think no Kroger's, Safeway, or whatever you got. You got to think with a mind that says, wow, what we consume is what we're going to raise. What we get done is what we do. Is that right? Now, most of us in this room are getting a little on the older side. I don't like that either. But I'm going to tell you something. Well, I'm going to have to go there because I'm already there. If I had not done this from a young life till now, I would never make. I've got a good friend of mine passed out with a heat stroke and died from that heat stroke because he wasn't prepared to do this. Do you follow what I'm saying? When we get to talking about health, we're going to look at some of these laws, and you're going to have to start getting obedient to them. You've got to start training yourself NOW. If you want to go to the country and you want to live in the country style life, then it requires that you've got to change your mindset. Do you follow what I'm saying? Most of us, probably all of us in this room, don't know what hard work really is. I mean work. Okay. I got 2 minutes. So that basically gives you somewhat an overwhelming, almost a despairing feeling, doesn't it? That's why I have done it. Because you've got to realize how serious this is. It is serious, folks. I am very thankful the Lord gave me a long life to prepare for what we're facing right now. I'm also thankful that I can be here to talk with y'all. But I don't like talking to people that don't do anything. You know what I'm saying? We've got to change. If we want to go through what's going, and I'm telling you what, folks, there's none of us in this room that old. And maybe the brother over here, he's lived his long life, 100 and something years old. But most of us in this room are not that old that we are not facing this. The last thing I want to stress to y'all, and I said it earlier, is if there was ever a time in Earth's history that we needed one another, it is now. I beg of you, all of you, when we started this out, we tried to get some Adventist folks. We had met the Adventist faith, and I'll tell you that maybe another story. But when I was in Central America, my whole life changed. That hippie mindset became a Jesus mindset. But I said, man, that was the best hippie there ever was. That's what we as hippies were looking for. a life that wasn't tied down by all the complicated things in this world. And when I read Desire of Ages, man, I said, wow, that's the man. But you know, Jesus gathered around him a community. Do you follow what I'm saying? Don't do this, and don't go out there by yourself. Get a few families together that really mean what they mean and want to do what they say they want to do. And put your life, your money, your effort. Your money is going to mean nothing to you right here in the near future. All right. Now it's kind of sober in here. Well, I'm speaking to you from my heart. I love all of you, and I mean that. I don't sleep at night thinking about, what are you going to do with your people, Lord? We're not near prepared. And like I said, I'm just thankful, Andrew and Becky, for giving me the opportunity, because it's coming, brethren. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. If that book is right, the end of all things is at hand. I don't know where you're all coming from, but I'm going to tell you something. I believe that book, I didn't believe in that book when I was back in my old crazy days. But when I started reading that book, it started making sense. I said, wow, Lord, here's the roadmap to your eternal kingdom. And I just want to be a small part of that and helping you all. And so when we spend these few hours together, be merciful to me, all right? And I'll try to be merciful to you. Because we've got some hard stuff to cover. In our next section, we're going to be looking at, tomorrow morning, we're going to start down the if, ands, and buts about the homesteading. What is necessary? What do you need? What do you don't need? All right? We're going to start looking at the mechanics of it. But I had to go through this with you this morning to help you to understand the where we're at. I don't imagine it was very easy on Noah and his boys, even though they were about 17 to 18 feet tall, to build an ark of that magnitude, which had never been done before. So my word of encouragement is, let's pull together and build an ark for safety.
To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.